My name is Cynthia Campbell. I'm the recently retired pastor of the Highland Presbyterian Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Our first chapter is entitled Dining al Fresco, the feeding of the multitude. This is arguably one of the most beloved of the stories about Jesus. In fact, this is the only incident that is told 6 times in all 4 of the Gospels, because Mark and Matthew actually tell the same story twice, simply with a different number of attendees. Obviously, this story had a deep impact on the memory of Jesus' followers and on the life and experience of the early Christian communities. Those communities gathered regularly, perhaps weekly, around the sharing of bread and wine and sharing the stories of Jesus. In so doing, they recalled, of course, the so-called Last Supper in the upper room, but they recalled this story as well, when a little bit of food fed an abundance of people, and there was enough and more to be had. Now, the background of this story is, in fact, hunger, real hunger. Most of the people who lived in Jesus' day, probably including himself, were more often than not food insecure. One bad harvest, one war, one disaster of one kind or another away from not enough food for themselves or their families. But there's a deeper background to this story as well, which of course is the story of the people of Israel wandering in the wilderness after the exodus from Egypt. They are hungry, and God provides manna, bread from heaven. Both of these experiences are just off screen, but deeply part of this story of Jesus providing food when it's needed. And so the stories invite us to ask a couple of questions. Who is hungry for food in your congregation, your community, your neighborhood? And what are you most hungry for?